Hello and welcome to another episode of Tudor. I hardly know her.
He's not quite sure if he knows her.
Is it?
Do I? Either that or Garrett's finally going through
really know her,
puberty
though?
and his real man voice is going to be terrifyingly deep.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if this is prepubescent, Garrett, can you just imagine post-pubescent?
Why do you think I'm prepubescent?
What?
Why do you think I'm prepubescent?
Because your voice just screeched a little bit? Like a
No, it
12-year-old
didn't.
in a bad choir practice?
Like you don't know.
Tudor, I hardly know her.
Today we're gonna talk about boobies.
Yay!
Henry VIII liked boobies.
Oh, man. Okay, so reimagining of the court of Henry Tudor, but everyone's a high schooler.
Oh, God, shut your mouth. CW will do that.
That's Rain.
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking more like
In
a
Rain,
pup
they're all
named Scooby-Doo.
No, we mean real high schoolers, like acne and terrible vision
Yeah.
and really no chemistry, all of that.
So like Save Like the Bell.
Saved by the Bell,
Mhm.
Henry VIII.
And so
And
he's
Saved
always
by
like
the
talking
Elf,
to the camera.
Saved by the Bell, the Tudor years.
Whoa, freeze frame.
Whoa,
Every
hold
time,
on.
every time Henry VIII does something crazy, he just looks at the camera and the audience laughs.
It's never going to stop happening.
Whackity schmackity do. And he's always trying to get past his ministers, so like he's trying to trick Cardinal Wolsey into doing shit for him. And at one point he has to dress up as a woman.
Because, yeah, it has to happen.
It's a 90s show. It's got to happen.
Who's his best friend and like his ride or die buddy?
Oh, it's
It just depends on what era you're looking at.
You know
Charles
what,
Brandon.
let's
Yeah,
just say it's
Charles Brandon.
It's
Superman.
it's still the guys from Saved by the Bell. So you got Screech and what's his name?
Okay, wait, hold on. Henry VIII is Zach Morris.
Yeah,
Screech is...
it's Screech. We're not going to change it up to match anybody. It's
Still
just going to be
It's
Dustin
Screech.
Diamond.
Dustin Diamond.
He's not working. He's up for anything. He has to be.
Look,
or is he in
he's-
jail still? I don't know.
He's so busy. He's telling Lifetime all about the behind the scenes of making it so that they can do their movie.
Oh yeah. Anyway, Emily, what are we talking about today?
Today, we are going to talk about crime and punishment in the Tudor era.
In the criminal justice system.
Dun dun.
I actually wanted to write
Law
a
and
skit.
Order.
And we'd open up. I wanted to write a skit and we'd open up with that, but I'm lazy.
No, quickly, write it now.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me pull up in the criminal justice system, especially, no.
That's SVU.
Sexual based offenses are considered especially heinous.
In the court of Henry Tudor,
Treason-based
everything is ruled
offenses.
by one equally insane.
No.
Yet
I got it. In the court of Henry Tudor, religiously based offenses are considered especially treasonous. Got the first line. Took me like a minute. Okay, we'll come back to that.
Yeah, one day.
Hey, before
Also, another
before we
TV
get
idea. Drink, everybody, if you're playing along at home.
before we get to the meat of the episode, before we get to the turk, pigeon, peacock, whatever, stuffed with goose, before we get to that, I have decided, so you know how we missed an episode in March because I was sick and I told our listeners we'd make it up to them?
Oh, yeah.
I want to do a book giveaway.
This is news to me.
Yeah, well, I thought about it a while ago and I just couldn't decide what book I wanted to give away. And then I remembered what book I want to give away. So I haven't yet decided how I do it. I don't want it to be like a ridiculous contest. I don't want people to have to do anything crazy to do it. Like they don't have to dress like Henry VIII.
5-paragraph essay.
Double spaced.
Mm-hmm.
12 point Times New Roman. No, I've decided I want to do a book giveaway on our Facebook page just because we have the most listeners on that. And the book I'm going to give away, I was debating between a few, but I'm going to go with my favorite book, my favorite Tudor book. It's called Jane Boleyn, The True Story of the Infamous Lady Rochford. It's by Julia Fox, and she's also written a couple of other really great books. So depending on how I do, I might just make it something as simple as like, tell me what you like about the Tudors, and I'll make a post about it, and it'll last for a couple days, and then I'll just randomly select a winner. And then I'll let the winner decide if they want a hardback copy or if they want me to send them a copy for their Kindle or Nook. So,
I like it. Good. All right.
Yeah, me too. It's just like I talk all the time about these books I love. And I know I've been asked for a list of the books, but I'm like, why not just give one of the books away? Any excuse to share that. Like, this is a really good book. It has made Jane Boleyn one of my favorite historical people. So that's going to happen.
Well, all right.
In the
Look
next
forward
week.
to that, listeners. Unless you're listening to this episode like 2 months from now and the contest is over, then it's going to be a little awkward.
But then you just tell me, and maybe I'll do another one if
Yeah,
I
who
like
knows?
you.
We'll see.
If I like you. I feel like there was something else, but I can't remember, so it's irrelevant.
I got nothing.
What?
I said I got nothing. I don't know.
Okay. So you ready
Okay.
to talk?
Yes.
Are you ready to talk Tudor?
Let's do it.
So let's start with our crazy Henry VIII fact.
Man, we're just getting that out of the way now.
Yeah. No, I mean we can get it away later. It's
Nope.
kind of a
do it now. Do it now. You already piqued my interest.
Okay, it's kind of a correction, but it works as the crazy fact. Do you remember when I told you how many people Henry VIII killed during his reign?
Yes.
Do you remember what that number was?
No.
A lot.
I'm pretty sure I told you guys it was 35,000.
That seems like a lot.
Well, actually, that number was wrong. Maybe. I read 2 sources today that cited it as 70,000 people were executed
Whoa!
during Henry VIII's reign. Yes.
I thought it was like that was like way high.
No. And I read this from 2 sources. So I'm pretty sure the last time I said it, I said 35,000. So I wanted to fix that. And I figured this was an appropriate episode to do so.
Man, Henry VIII chopping heads and soiling beds.
We're calling that the title of this episode. That's
Chopping
happening.
Heads, soiling beds.
Okay, so let's talk about crime.
Let's do it.
Okay, so crime in those days was, similar to these days. You don't murder, you don't steal, all that kind of stuff. Punishment was very, very different. But
Well, after 70,000 people, I'm sure it was.
what's really interesting about that time period was the kind of crimes you got into kind of depended on your class. Punishment definitely depended on class, but there were certain crimes that you couldn't really get involved with. Like the nobility, they were more inclined to get into crimes of spying and high treason. The lower classes, there were 2 classes: the nobility and the not nobility.
In the court of Henry Tudor, everyone is divided into 2 separate and totally not equal classes:
Exactly.
nobility and the peasantry.
Yes,
These are their stories.
perfect. Dong dong. Jeff, please
Jeff,
put the dong dong
cut that
in.
out and just put in the actual sound.
Jeff, put in the dong dong.
I'll do
Put the
both.
dong dong in, Jeff.
Dong dong bong bong. Now you have to do it over my dong dong bong bong.
Oh, man.
I think we found another name for the episode.
What?
I think we found another name for the episode.
Dong dong bong bong.
The dong dong bong bong.
Anyang.
Also, one more thing I want to bring up before we actually get into the meat of this episode.
Yeah.
I saw when you put out a Team Turkey or Team Ham.
Shut up.
Team Ham was totally on my side for things.
Team Turkey was busy eating turkey. Okay.
I ate so much
Yeah, they all
ham
fell
on
asleep from all
Easter,
that
I
trip
was a
thing.
happy
You
child.
guys
They didn't see the
disgust
poll.
me. I don't even know what to do.
I
with
even
you.
had ham leftovers like the very next day.
You guys horrify
You're a good
me.
man.
I'm gonna vomit.
Ham.
Stop. You make me sick. right, back to the real good stuff.
Like
not
ham.
Are you ready to go back to the good stuff, Gare?
Yes, let's go.
The right stuff. So 2 different classes, different punishments. So I'm trying to decide where I want to start. Okay, so let's start with some of the crimes that you could get punished for in those days. So there was theft. So if you stole from another person, you stole money, you stole an item. If you stole a fucking bird egg, I'm not even kidding, you could be accused. You could be taken to court for theft.
Like a bird, like a wild bird egg, or a bird egg belonging to somebody else?
Pretty sure a wild bird egg. Like if you go into a nest and you're like, "This is mine now."
That bird has rights. Damn it!
You could get punished for stealing hawks. Which, when we talked about the entertainment episode, I kind of get why stealing hawks was bad. But like, what about the other shitty birds?
Let go of my bird.
What about the other shitty birds? Like, do you think somebody was like, "Don't steal my chicken," and they're like, "Can't do anything. You can only arrest me for stealing a hawk."
Release my pigeons.
Those are going in Henry VIII's chicken's butt. He wants to eat it.
Let my poultry go.
Is this an even episode?
Actually, this is an odd one.
Ooh,
So weird.
I'll say it's an odd one.
So you could also you could also be punished for gossiping, which is hilarious to me because the court did
man, I love
nothing but
that.
gossip. Can you just imagine, like, all of the Kardashians would have been arrested in the first week of their show going on?
Was there like a real like any form of like police or detective back then?
The towns did have, from what I know, the towns did have, not like, I don't think they were called a sheriff, but I think there were like people who kind of kept order.
Well, yeah, because like you think about it, you had
Like a town council almost.
Well, you think about Robin Hood. How I had
Men in tights.
yes,
The Sheriff of
the
Nottingham.
Sheriff of Nottingham, or Alan Rickman. Come on.
You know he exists beyond Men in Tights, right?
I mean, there are questions about whether or not he exists historically.
I'm pretty sure he wasn't real. I thought that was all fictional.
They haven't proved or disproved it.
It's kind of like King Arthur. There's
Yeah.
like a little bit of both.
Yeah. So actors needed to have licenses because vagrancy was illegal. So it was illegal to not have a job. So actors,
Okay.
traveling actors needed licenses to prove that they weren't vagrants. You could get arrested for buggery. Do you know what that is?
Buggery has something to do with the butt.
It does. Yeah,
Is it like sodomy laws?
Yeah.
Man, I'm good.
Good job. Stealing hawks, I said. So then you could also get tortured for things like murder, of course, or not. Sorry, I didn't mean tortured. Punished for things like murder.
See, that's another thing I also always thought about is like, do crimes happen just because there's not much record keeping for that kind of stuff back then? Did they happen more often because it was sometimes easier? Because like today it's
No.
like there's so many things like, oh, there's cameras, there's a way to like actually keep track of you doing something that, like out in public nowadays and
I
find out
don't
your whereabouts.
think-
Where back
I mean,
then,
yeah,
it's
and
like,
if you fuck up, you can just leave town,
See,
can't you?
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
because then you get arrested at the next town for being a vagrant. I'm not kidding. You kind of had
Oh,
to stay
yeah.
in your own town.
well, that and makes me think of like maybe it didn't happen as often too because the punishments were so severe.
Yes,
like you were tortured for stealing wild
no,
bird eggs.
you lost an arm for
Yeah.
stealing a wild bird egg.
So that's what I mean. Like
Ooh.
back then, you're more scared to actually do something wrong.
yeah.
Just being in a certain religion was scary.
It was illegal.
Yeah.
We're going to get to that. So other common crimes: high treason, blasphemy, sedition, spying, rebellion, murder, witchcraft, and alchemy. So those are some of the common crimes. See, I probably shouldn't believe in the good of all people, but I generally do believe in the good of all people. So I'm disinclined to believe that everybody was just like even a majority was going around being like, I can commit all the crimes. There are no cameras. They don't even
then
know what that
also
word
you
means.
think about there's a higher morality back then because how
Because
important religion
yes.
was to them. Like, because a lot
Yeah.
of them were also fearful of what they're going to happen in the afterlife.
And then when you think about the reasons that we do have records of people that were tortured, it wasn't like they weren't going out and just stabbing someone willy-nilly. They were getting arrested for believing in what they believe in.
Yes.
So, okay, so let's talk about
Now, these are the laws that apply to the peasantry, right? Or this
All.
everybody?
all.
All.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, like, it's not like a peasant couldn't commit high treason. It's just it rarely happened. A peasant could rebel, and you'd get in trouble for that. You could get in trouble for blasphemy. So one of Henry VIII's issues was the church court had a lot of power, and he didn't like that. We talked about this in the church episode, how, like, he didn't like them having as much power, like, over law. So the churches also kept order in these little villages and hamlets and whatnot. So let's talk. So you know how I said, all right, here's some of the punishment for some of these ridiculous crimes. So any sort of theft meant losing an arm or a limb, some limb, don't know which limb. Could be a leg, could be an arm, not your head. That one's attached. So there is a thing called the brank, B-R-A-N-K, and that was used to punish people who gossip. Can you guess what a brank is?
I imagine it's a ball gag.
Close-ish.
Does it cut your tongue out?
No.
Hmm.
It's a head cage.
Whoa.
Ooh, like Man in the Iron Mask?
No, it's a cage, like a bird cage over your head.
Oh, even better.
Okay, hold on. There's one you're really going to like. There's one punishment called a drunkard's cloak. And this one is just glorious. If you were publicly drunk, you had to wear the drunkard's cloak. It is a barrel with holes cut in it. And you walked through town wearing a barrel.
Is that kind of where that comes from?
Maybe.
Because I always remember
Like
being
that
a kid
cartoon and
yeah,
they got the suspenders on.
Yeah, like just
Yeah,
seeing that.
yeah,
That's why
those
I
always
mean, yes, but
think
without
of-
the suspenders, they literally just had a hole cut for their head and their arms, and they had to wobble through town.
And then you kick them over and you roll them down, and it's fun for all the children.
People were hung for witchcraft, and also
and burned.
no, actually, they were more
Really?
likely to be hung.
Huh.
Yeah, witchcraft wasn't.
That's not a reliable way to kill a witch.
Burning was more for
Heresy?
yes.
That's why I
That's why Anne Boleyn. No, wait, or treason. That's why Anne Boleyn was almost. She could have been burned.
Oh.
You can also be hung for buggery, rape, and stealing hawks. So, if you tried to murder someone, you were boiled alive, and I think I've told you guys about that before.
Oh, like the oil stuff?
Yes.
Deep fried.
Deep fried fatty. Hold on.
Criminals.
Punishment. Oh, some minor punishments mostly for nobles, but it also affected the poor. Taking the lands, title, and money of the guilty. So if you were found guilty, you'd have that taken away. And so sometimes what would
Like
happen...
the dead guy.
Like the dead guy. So... Poor Thomas and Beckett. Couldn't even enjoy death. Fucking kings. So here's the thing. If you had your money taken away, a lot of time fines were imposed that you were incapable of paying. Because like if you were fined 20 pounds, that's like a year's salary. And so of course a lot of peasants couldn't pay it, or even merchants might not have been able to pay it. So if you couldn't pay it, you were then punished even more. You could be exiled. You could be sent to prison. It was just...
Have to wear hair shirts.
No, that was actually a religious joy for some freaks.
I like the way it tickles.
Okay, so let's go to like the trials if you guys want to talk about that.
Oh, yeah. These
Yeah.
sound fair.
Okay, totally fair. So I only found... So we've talked about how the church holds trials. Those ones are probably a little bit more fair. But in the Palace of Westminster, there is a place called the Star Chamber. And for about 200 years, that's where trials were held. That's where you were tried for political libel, heresy, and treason. So everybody Henry VIII killed was probably tried there. It was made up of privy counselors and judges. So privy counselors are the equivalent of like the American cabinet. And if you're not American, I'm sorry. It's made up of people Henry VIII chooses, or Elizabeth or Mary, or it's whatever the king chooses to put in the privy counselor.
Once again, sounds totally fair.
So funnily enough, I actually wrote it was made up of them to ensure a quote unquote fair enforcement of Henry's laws.
And then he winks.
Right. So these were all held in secret. There was no jury. You could not appeal, and you could not have witnesses. Every bit of evidence was in writing. You couldn't like bring forward a gun and be like, see, it's got his face print on it. Everything was in writing. And sometimes, a lot of times, bigger prisoners who Henry VIII wanted to get rid of quickly, they wouldn't even have time to prepare a defense for themselves. And sometimes they weren't even allowed to give one if they had a defense. I think the best you could do is after it was decided, but before the decision was announced, you could speak words in your own. You could say a statement, but the decision had already been made, so it was really just like a stick it to the man moment.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like success rate for defendants was super low.
Yeah, it really was. I didn't look up if anybody ever left that free, but sometimes public opinion kind of helped out, and sometimes if it wasn't secret, it helped out. But I don't read a lot of stories of people leaving that chamber.
So there wasn't anything like lawyers back then, really, were there? Like anyone to
I think there were people who were lawyer. Thomas More was a lawyer.
Okay.
But it was in that he studied law. It wasn't in that he
like
defended
anybody from the law or for the law.
Yes, Thomas More actually spoke out for himself.
Okay.
And I think at one point they tried to say he wasn't allowed to, and he goes, "Bitches, I'm a lawyer. I know what I can do."
It's funny, but my nerdism's kicking in because I've been watching all this Star Trek, and there was an episode where someone was put on trial by an alien race. But the whole thing with that race is, like, the trial isn't to decide whether or not you're guilty or innocent. All trials, you're already guilty. It's just there just to show how you're going to be punished for that crime. Like, they already decided you commit a crime no matter if you're actually innocent or not.
Sounds like Henry VIII.
Yeah, so I'm like, that's actually kind of fascinating hearing this right
Yeah.
now because I'm thinking about that.
Garrett, were you going to say something?
No, go on.
Okay. So I already told you about the common crimes that people would get accused of. The ones like high treason, spying, witchcraft, alchemy. The punishment for those was death. There was no other option. Weirdly, witchcraft had like a 2 strikes option. You were imprisoned for the first offense, but if you got caught doing witchcraft again, then you died.
Yeah, that seems really weird that they'd give you that much allowance for witchcraft, especially
and
how
then
religious they were.
And then there was John Dee, who was one of Elizabeth I's big important counselors. And we might have to cut this out if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure John Dee was like crazy into alchemy. Maybe. Yeah, John Dee is the subject of the 2010 Iron Maiden song, The Alchemist.
Oh, dude. Yes.
Sorry. So we're going to totally play that song at the end of this. Are we allowed to do that?
Probably not.
Well, then we'll share a link on YouTube.
I'm sure Iron Maiden would be honored.
I mean, it's totally
Bruce
relevant
Dickinson
because
loves history. If you listen to their Iron Maiden, it's a lot of stuff about history.
Okay, so that song is being played, but John Dee was into alchemy, which was essentially chemistry. And
science person.
Yeah. And he was one of Elizabeth's BFFs.
But didn't like members of like nobility and higher court like sometimes practice
like
occult
astrology
stuff in
and
the name
stuff?
of Henry?
Yeah, they did, and
I
think
can't see astrology. Well, astrology is more like study of stars and location stars. Like
it's a religious thing, though.
Is it really religious? Like
no, astrology itself isn't. The punishment, you can't do it because that's saying that there's another force out there besides God working. So, but like things like predicting Henry VIII's death. Like if you went to a crazy old gypsy woman, they wouldn't have existed back then. If you went to a woman and she was like, I can tell the future, Henry VIII's going to die, then both the person who heard it and the woman who said and the person who said it, they get arrested for treason because predicting the king's death is bad. It's treasonous.
Man, Cleo would have like just been gone
Cleo,
really
yeah.
quick back then.
Yeah.
With her tarot cards and everything.
Tarot cards.
But didn't that one lady use Nostradamus?
No, according to Rain, Nostradamus hung out with the French.
Oh, that's right.
I don't know.
Rain
I don't
is
know too
fake.
much about Nostradamus, honestly. Nope, I know nothing about Nostradamus. Okay, so let's get to the good stuff. So the ways you could be killed after committing a crime and being found guilty. You could be beheaded, and then your head was placed on the London Bridge.
Heard that one.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Burned at the stake.
A classic option.
Hung, drawn, and quartered.
Ooh, yeah. I like that one.
Okay.
I
So
call that one excessive.
when you hang, draw, and quarter someone, you hang someone until they're mostly dead. He's not completely dead. He's mostly dead.
Just mostly dead.
Mostly dead. So you hang them until they're mostly dead. Cut the rope. Revive them. Cut their private parts
Hey, buddy,
off.
wake up. Slap him in the face a couple times.
Cut their private parts off.
I don't like this one
Cut their
anymore.
stomach open. They're still alive. Pull out their insides. Toss them in the fire. And then they get beheaded. So they're alive for all of that. And then
Manga.
after they're beheaded,
Like
they are
velociraptors.
so you are alive when they start to eat you. Hey, today is National Velociraptor Awareness Day.
Thanks, Alan Grant.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Cardinal Woolsey.
Yeah.
Topical. It's relevant, guys.
I watched the Tudors.
So after your head was cut off, you were then quartered, in which all of your limbs were cut off, and they were sent into the 4 quarters of the kingdom to warn others not to do it.
And the children got to go on a scavenger hunt trying to find all the pieces. And if you did, you get a piece of candy.
And then you put them back together, and that's how Easter became what it is. So other punishments, pressing, which is basically just putting shit on top of you, branding, whipping, the pillory or the stocks. The pillory is what most people think of when they hear stocks. It's the thing where you're standing and your head and your hands are in a board with holes.
This all just sounds like sex type stuff.
And then it is.
Also, yes.
You could have your limbs cut off. And then there was something called a ducking stool. This one's fun.
Still sounds like sex type stuff.
They just shove a duck in you.
They make you a turducken.
They make you into the turducken.
No, the ducking stool is when basically a teeter-totter type thing was put on the edge of a pond or lake or something like that. A person was placed on the end over the water, and they were dunked into it over and over and over again.
Ooh.
Whose job do you think was to create these things? Just like really bored and try to think of really ridiculous
don't
ways to
know.
just like.
It sounds like children.
Yeah.
He pissed me off. Push him in the
Oh
water.
my God, is this King Edward?
Yes. No,
It
I don't
sounds
know.
like something he would have done though.
Maybe.
So these are all like punishments that end in death or horrible
Eventually.
dismemberment. Like,
I mean,
did
yeah.
anybody go to jail?
Yeah, you'd get sent to prison for a bit, but like there wasn't like a drunk tank where if you were like you didn't get a night to sober up. So you'd go to prison and be in those circumstances for a couple of years and then maybe released. Otherwise, nothing.
Were there any crimes that were just kind of like a slap on the wrist, or was it all pretty serious business?
I think it was all pretty serious. I think getting your hand cut off is a slap on the wrist
And that's kind of like what I was saying
Ba-dum-bum.
before.
with a knife.
Like that's what I was saying before. That's why I think like crime just didn't happen that often back then to begin with. Just because
terrifying.
you're like, I just took a man's
fear
egg.
of
I'm gonna lose
God
a
in ya.
whole arm.
Yeah. Over a friggin' egg. So, you know how I talked about burning? Sometimes the person who would be oh my God, what's it called when you're the person who has to kill the people?
Executioner.
When the executioner, sometimes the executioner would feel bad for the victim or would be bribed by somebody the victim knows to put gunpowder around the person who's going to burn's neck, because
So they die instantly.
exploding is a lot less terrifying than slowly burning to a crisp.
But way more terrifying for the audience.
Splash zone.
People in front audience, you will get
It's
wet.
like a Gallagher show.
Okay, you guys ready to talk about torture?
We haven't already.
Ooh, yes.
No, none of the torture. I'm gonna start.
Torture.
I'm gonna start with the small stuff.
Torture. I hardly knew her. Okay, continue.
They'd put pins in your fingernails, like under.
Oh no.
Garrett's gonna love this episode.
They put squids in your pants.
Oh
The
no.
octopus over your face and just
Garrett, guess what I learned? You're gonna have to cut this, Jeff. Astronauts
What?
sent jellyfish into space. They sent like 2,000 of them into space, and they bred until there were 30,000 of them.
What the
And
hell?
they adapted terrifyingly well to space.
When did this happen?
90. It started in 1990.
space jellyfish.
Oh my God. That's how. Oh no. That's
For-
awful.
For our listeners who don't know, Garrett does not like anything with tentacles or flimsy little arm thingies.
No, not in the slightest.
He doesn't even like the Pokemon Tentacruel.
Okay, he's kind of cool. He's got eyes.
No,
He's
that's
got
the
eyes. And he
evolved
looks like he's
form.
got attitude.
Okay, other torture. There was the Rack, the Scavenger's Daughter, the Iron Maiden, and the Little Ease.
Once again with the Iron Maiden, we got to throw it in now.
Well, that's
what
how
is
Iron Maiden got their name.
What is the daughter one? What was that?
The Scavenger's Daughter.
Yeah, what's that?
Well, hold on. I want to explain the rack first. So
Okay.
the rack was essentially a piece of wood where wheels and ropes were connected, and the victim who was being tortured would have each limb attached to each corner's like winch, not winch. There are no winches there. Attached to the winch, and they would be slowly stretched apart until their limbs popped out of their sockets.
Ooh.
The Scavenger's Daughter does the opposite. It compresses the victim.
Oh no, that sounds way worse.
The Iron Maiden, I think everybody knows what that is. It's the human-shaped box with...
It's a popular heavy metal band from Britain.
and then there's something called a Little Ease, and that's apparently a cell where you can't stand and you can't lay. You just kind of have to
so it's like a little
crouch.
dog or
You-
kennel.
yeah, you just kind of have to crouch.
Oh, that sounds like it sucks.
So when it came to the rack, the victim was shown the rack, questioned, and then they were put on the rack if they weren't happy. Another torture device was they would just hang people from manacles on the manacles were attached to their wrists and they'd be hung from the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I've seen those before.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how torture was used. So, interestingly enough, torture was not common until Henry VIII.
Of
It was
course.
not. I know, it was not. It was widely discussed. Just nobody used it. The Catholic Church disapproved it, and because it kind of ran the world, because the Catholic
Sound it out.
because the Catholic Church kind of ran the world, people didn't torture. And then Cromwell started torturing people in the 1530s. One of the men Anne Boleyn was accused of having an affair with. Of all of the men, only one confessed, and they believe he was tortured with the rack. I don't know if it was ever confirmed. Or maybe it was. I don't know. Either way, Mark Smeaton, who is the musician. So here's something really interesting. So I found this out in that book, The Tudors, that I was reading, that I just finally finished. And apparently the author did not like Elizabeth, or we do not know as much about Elizabeth as we thought we did, because a lot of people think of her as the Golden Queen, really tolerant. She surpassed her father in the intensity and frequency of the torture. She had these really horrible torturers, and she kind of used torture for everything. So it was so bad during her father's and her reign that afterwards, very soon afterwards, I think during the reign of Charles I, who was just 2 after her, it was banned forever in England. So there has never been torture since the 1600s because Elizabeth and Henry VIII did it too much.
Jeez.
Yeah. So,
And Mary gets a bad rap.
right? See, I told you it's unfair. Poor Mary. I mean, she was a bad queen, but she wasn't a terrible person. So Elizabeth had 2 torturers. There was Rackmaster Norton. Like, his nickname was Rackmaster. Like,
I
That's
am
what the ladies
Rackmaster.
call it.
yeah, but if you say that nowadays, that just sounds like a kid who bragged about motorboating girls all the time. I am the Rackmaster.
Yeah, the ladies like to call me Rackmaster.
So he was her torturer
Also because I like to
until-
pull people's limbs out, but, that's besides the point.
So he was Elizabeth's main torturer until 1572. And then a man called Richard Topcliffe kind of took over. And I can only tell you guys a little bit about it because what I read, like, he's a sadist. It is not torture. He is a monster. And one story of what he did I can't repeat. It's so awful. Let's just say it involved the young woman of a family that was hiding a priest.
Ooh.
He hated Catholics, absolutely despised them. So a lot of the torture that was done during Elizabeth I's reign was towards Catholics. She apparently deeply feared them because she had a reason to. But this guy, Topcliffe, he even installed a torture chamber in his own home. Like, he's a sadist. It was not...
Likes to bring his work home with him.
Yeah, it's pretty
To
awful.
him, it was not work.
He always claimed that torture...
If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
He always claimed...
So this guy's almost like a, for those who watch Game of Thrones, almost like a Ramsay.
Worse.
Wow.
Ooh, whoa.
Ramsay Bolton look
Those
good.
are some big words.
I don't know if I think he's worse because he actually existed, but I think he's worse. He's pretty awful.
If Emily won't talk about it, he sounds like a real scumbag.
Yeah.
No kidding.
He always claimed that torture was not to get confessions, but to obtain information. He was full of shit. He just liked torturing people. So one notable person who was tortured was the Protestant Anne Askew, and I think we might have mentioned her once. But she was tortured for being a Protestant during Henry VIII's reign, and women couldn't be tortured. I think Henry tried to get around that by saying only noble women couldn't be tortured, but I don't really know. She's the only woman who's ever been tortured in English history. And she was stretched so much on the rack that she had to be carried to her trial. She couldn't walk. And then she was burned at the stake. So that was bad times.
Wow.
I'm just going through my notes to make sure I've covered everything except for the last little bit. Okay, so since we talked about beheadings, I want to talk about some notable beheadings that Henry VIII did.
Okay.
You guys don't mind. He started early. So you know how he became king in 1509?
Mm-hmm.
He started beheading in 1510.
And how old was he at that point?
18?
Ooh.
Yeah, maybe 20-ish. Young. So first he executed Edmund Dudley and Richard Empson. I know Garrett might not be able to picture this, but Edmund Dudley is the grandfather of Robert Dudley, who was Elizabeth I's favorite and who many people assume she was in love with. She couldn't marry. So Edmund
Okay.
Dudley was his grandfather. So he was executed in 1510. Or it might have been his great-grandfather. Either way. He was a direct relative. He was executed because these two men were in charge of like getting Henry VII money, and since Henry VII was so crazy about money, he kind of did what they did what they could. They taxed a lot, so he was really they were really unpopular, and Henry was like, well, I'm gonna make people love me and I'll kill these guys. So he found them guilty on bullshit charges of embezzling, and they were beheaded. In 1513, there was a cousin of Henry's mother's, and somehow related to him because of that whole complicated bloodline. His name is Edmund de la Pole, and he was the nephew of Richard III and Edward IV, so two kings. He tried to overthrow Henry VIII, so he got beheaded, but that was an actual thing he attempted to do. In 1521, there was another relative of his, Edward Stafford. He was the Duke of Buckingham, and he started speaking of Henry VIII's death, so he was executed for just speaking about it. In 1534, there was a nun called Elizabeth Barton, and she started having visions and then claimed that she was getting visions from God that if Henry didn't abandon his attempts to be with Anne Boleyn and go back to Catherine of Aragon, woe unto him and all that bullshit. So she got beheaded for treason. John Fisher was beheaded in 1535. He was a priest who opposed Henry's divorce. So he was beheaded for denying Henry's supremacy. And in 1547, he executed Henry Howard, the Earl of Surrey, who is technically Anne Boleyn's cousin, for simply being Catholic. So he killed Anne Askew for being Protestant and then Henry Howard for being Catholic.
Well, you got to cover all your bases.
I know. He busy. And that is Tudor Crime and Punishment. Dong dong.
Dun dun.
What do you think?
This was a brutal episode.
It was.
Glad I didn't live back then.
I think many people are glad they don't live.
I would have I'd had a lot of bad things done to me.
You would have worn the cloak of. Hold on, let me find the name of it.
The drunkard's cloak.
The drunkard's cloak. You would have had to wear the drunkard's cloak every day.
But it adds +2 to fortitude.
Garrett just gets out of bed and puts on his barrel.
joke.
Any questions, guys, or are you all gonna go watch a Disney movie to cheer yourself up?
Is that where Barrel
Yeah,
of
I'm gonna
Fun
watch
comes
Robin
from?
Hood.
I don't know if that's where.
You
know, Jeff,
I
weirdly, I don't know the etymology of phrases like barrel of fun.
I did have a question about a crime. I don't know if we covered it, so cut it out if I'm.
Tell me more.
Prostitution.
I actually don't think that was punished. I mean, I know everybody visited
really,
them.
Like morally just and upright like society, that would have been very frowned upon. But I also feel like it's something that just happened a bunch, and people just like kind of turned a blind eye. And like, yeah, we all do it. Whatever.
I want to say it's the latter.
Okay, that sounds about
Look,
right.
hold on, a whole article about prostitution. Oh God, that's a lot. I can't do that.
All right.
Hold on. I'm gonna do a quick thing. Not really finding
Someone have to
anything.
come. I think this is one we'll have to come back to.
Oh, hold on. Prostitution was popular.
No shit.
And as men have always been prepared to pay extra for a virgin. Ew. We don't need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Henry VIII closed all brothels in 1546, but his son
And
had
opened them
them
exclusively
opened.
for himself.
That's a fun fact.
What did you say?
Henry VIII had closed all the brothels in 1546, but his son had them opened.
Ugh, Dad.
Homosexuality was punished by death.
Oh.
That was
That's a downer.
yeah. Anyway, that's prostitution.
And that's Crime and Punishment.
That's the really dark episode. But everybody has a possibility of a free book to look forward to, so
Yay!
I'm probably gonna run that for like a week just to give everybody a chance.
Okay.
We'll think of something because we've been trying to toy around with different ideas what we want to do to determine who gets it.
I really don't
We'll-
want to do anything crazy. I don't want to make people
won't-
have
we
to
won't-
share like
yeah,
no. I just
We'll let you know.
I want to reward the people for coming to us first and listening. So that's what you
How about they tell us their favorite episode?
that could be a good one. And why?
Yeah.
They have to tell us why.
Or tell us who your favorite member is. And if you say Garrett, you get the book.
Garrett, are you going to buy the book?
Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. Goodbye.
All right.
Just kidding. Do you know what we're talking about next episode, Emily?
We have a couple options, but I haven't narrowed it down.
All right. Well, let's not spoil it now.
Okay.
Let's
Well, thanks,
talk
everyone.
about it later.
Find us on Twitter and Facebook. Twitter at Tudor Know Her. Facebook at Tudor I Hardly Know Her. Please rate and review us on iTunes. I really like reading everybody's comments. And that's it.
All right. Anything else to add, or are we all good to go?
Nope, we're good to go.
We're all good.
All right. So until next time.
Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced,
Divorced,
beheaded,
beheaded,
survived.
survived.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye. And then beheaded. And then you get a beheading. And then you get a beheading.
Everybody gets beheaded.
Yay!